Hey guys, today I'm filming a first impression and follow-up on the LA Girl Pro Matte Foundation. This is a brand that can be sold at a couple different random stores, but I would definitely recommend buying this from Ulta. So this foundation retails for $8.99. I was fortunate enough to get mine on sale, so it was even cheaper than that. And it does come in 14 shades, which really is not the best. We definitely have come to expect more from foundations that they have at least 20 shades. So there aren't too many claims on the Ulta website, but it says that this will even out your skin tone with a soft suede matte finish. This longwear formula is lightweight and a medium to full coverage. It provides complete natural looking coverage and even skin tone. As with all of my first impression videos, I have applied my skincare, but I am not going to be using any primer today. I will also be applying the foundation on one side of my face with my Sigma F80 flat top kabuki brush, and on the other side with my Real Techniques Miracle Complexion Sponge. I always prefer a sponge, but I do like to see what the coverage looks like with a brush and how well it blends out. So I do have the lightest shade, which is Ivory. We will see how well this matches me. I'm a little nervous about that. I actually have never tried anything from LA Girl before. I know they have a concealer that people absolutely love, but they never had a good shade for me. The light shades were either too dark or too peach, too pink, but they do have some really good medium and tan shades. However, for the foundation, it looks like there's a lot of medium shades. There's a couple of deep ones, but definitely not enough. So we'll see if this is fair enough. This looks pale, but also it is in a frosted bottle, and we'll see if it is more on the neutral or yellow tone side. So it does have a pump, which is really nice, and as I said, it is a frosted glass packaging. Ooh. Okay, this is pretty runny. Okay, yeah, this might end up being a little light, but we will see if it oxidizes or how it looks once I put powder on. But it is really thin, which I love. I love foundations that have more of a thin consistency, but I still want them to give some good coverage. And this pump is really easy to control. I'm just getting out a really tiny bit at a time as to not make a mess, and it's super easy to just get out a tiny amount, so I like that. So now that I have it dotted on one side of my face, I'm going to go in with my sponge and blend it out. It's blending out pretty well, but I definitely do need to work it in to make sure I don't have any patches or spots. So that definitely looks like a light coverage. It didn't even really even out my skin tone, and I am still seeing a lot of redness and a lot of freckling, so we will see what I'm able to get with a brush application. Now that I have that dotted on this side of my face, I'm going to go in with my Sigma F80 flat top kabuki brush, and I am going to really try to press this into the skin to get the most coverage. That actually seems to be blending out really easily with a brush, which makes sense. It's just easier to blend things out with a brush in general, usually. Because with the sponge, I felt like I was having to like work it in a little bit more, but the brush, very simple. So here's one layer of foundation applied with a sponge versus one layer of foundation applied with a brush. We definitely have more of a light medium coverage with a brush and very light coverage with a sponge. I'm able to see a lot more redness on this side, and on this side there is still some redness, some freckling, but it has evened out my skin tone overall. So now I'm going to see if it is buildable. So with the sponge, it definitely is building up, as you can see, so that's good news. And it seems like the second layer is easier to blend out than the first layer, which is interesting. So now to see if it is buildable with a brush. Yes, definitely. Look at the difference in the coverage right there. And this also is blending out super easily upon the second layer with the brush. So here's what the foundation looks like. 2 layers applied with the sponge versus 2 layers applied with a brush. I actually feel like the coverage is looking the same, and that's because right in this area I'm able to see some redness, and I think maybe I just worked it in with the brush too much. I messed with it too much and it started maybe picking up on itself. But yeah, the forehead looks the same. For some reason, the side with the brush, I feel like I'm seeing a little bit more dryness than with the sponge, which this is a matte foundation, so that makes sense. Yeah, I would say we do have a solid medium coverage with 2 layers, and you guys know I prefer full, but I do think that this looks nice. So my face is still a little tacky, which most foundations for me don't set down, but it isn't super glowy or greasy. It definitely does not feel heavy on my skin right now. So I am going to apply some under eye concealer, and I am going to set my face with the Dermablend Translucent Loose Setting Powder, which is not going to give me any color coverage or mattify me. It's just going to set the skin. So I have a late start to the day right now. It is noon, and I'm only going to be able to do an 8-hour wear test today, unfortunately, but that is definitely enough time for me to be able to tell if this foundation is going to hold up well against my oils. So as far as the check-in goes, I'm not sure. I would love it to be 4 o'clock halfway throughout the day, but I think that Justin and I have got some errands that we need to run, so we will see about that. It might be a little earlier, a little later, but I will at least give you guys my final check-in for the day around 8 p.m. So I will see you guys in a little bit. Hey guys, it is 4 p.m. so I am back to give you my midday check-in. I've had my foundation on for 4 hours at this point, and I am starting to look a little shiny. I wouldn't say that I'm at that greasy stage yet, but I am noticing some shine on my forehead, my chin, and the sides of my nose, and when I touch my skin I can definitely feel it, which I don't love. And considering that up here around my hairline in between my brows looks a little dry and patchy, I was hoping that it would help keep me more matte, and so far it hasn't done that. But again, in my follow-up I will test this out with my mattifying face powder and see if that helps, and I don't believe it has oxidized any. I think it still looks a little bit light for me, but hopefully when I use that mattifying powder, which tends to darken up my makeup, it might make it match me pretty well. And so far I think this foundation is good. I'm not blown away. Part of me is like, Heather, why did you buy this? Because you already have a lot of foundation. So I'm already feeling on the fence about keeping it, even though it was very inexpensive because I got mine on sale. In a decluttering mood, and I've seen some things that I wish I returned when I had the chance, so I've been thinking about this foundation. But again, I've only worn it for 4 hours, so I am excited to see how it wears for a full day and to try it in my follow-up. So far pretty good. I wish it was a little bit more matte, but it's not terrible. So I will see you guys around 8 p.m. for my final check-in. Hey guys, I'm back to give you my final thoughts for the day. It is 10 p.m. so I've actually been able to wear this foundation for 10 hours, which is a little longer than I thought I was going to, which is fantastic. And this foundation looks okay farther back, but I just got really close up in my mirror and yikes, it does not look so good. So as you can see, I'm super duper shiny on my forehead, around my nose. The foundation has completely rubbed off the tip of my nose, on my chin, and on the side where I applied it with a brush, it looks more dry and it feels like there's little brush pin pricks in it. They just look like little holes all over my face, and it definitely looks really dry on my forehead, which is so weird because I'm very oily right here, but just up along my hairline and right here on the sides looks super duper dry. On the side where I applied it with a sponge on my cheek, I'm not really noticing any of that textured look. So when I do the follow-up, I definitely will apply it with a sponge, which is what I would normally do, but I will definitely do that to see if my skin is gonna look more even. It won't look patchy, and it's worn away right in this area, so I'm not loving this so far. I don't believe that the shade oxidized. It looks the same as when I applied it earlier. So for my final thoughts for today, I do not love this. It could certainly be worse, but I was hoping to be a little bit more mattified. I look really dry in some areas, but then I'm super greasy in my T-zone, so that's just unfortunate, and I am really excited for tomorrow to film the follow-up to see how it works with some of my other products. So I will see you guys then. I am back to film the follow-up on the LA Girl Pro Matte Foundation. So today I will be inserting this product into my everyday routine to get a more accurate picture of how this is actually going to work for me. So for primer today, I will be using the Ordinary High Adherence Silicone Primer all over, and in my large pores, I'll be using the Dr. Brandt Pores No More Primer. So the Ordinary Primer is a little thicker, but it's very smoothing on the skin. And it helps foundation glide easier. Then taking a bit of the Dr. Brandt Pores No More Primer. This is a really nice, thin, moussey consistency that does a really nice job of filling in pores. But it's not going to look too heavy on the skin, and I don't really have trouble with this balling up on my skin. So I'm just pressing it into my pores and then smoothing over it. So for the application, I decided that I will be using the Real Techniques Miracle Complexion Sponge. Even though I think the brush gave more coverage, I like the way that my skin looked better when I used the sponge. Right now, I feel like it's kind of emphasizing the texture on my skin. I don't think my skin is incredibly textured, but I won't judge it yet. I'll wait till I have it fully applied. So here is one layer of foundation applied with a sponge versus no foundation. So here's one layer all over my skin, and apply with a sponge. I do think I have a light medium coverage. Here are 2 layers of foundation applied with the sponge versus 1 layer of foundation applied with a sponge. And here are 2 layers of foundation applied with a sponge all over. And I would say that we have a full coverage, but on the lighter side of full coverage, somewhere between a high, medium, and a low full. I am still able to see some of my redness. All of the redness I have in this blemish is completely showing through, but I think the coverage is pretty good. So I am looking at my skin close up, and I'm noticing a lot of texture in this area. It's not pores, it's just texture, and my skin is looking a little bit dry. But all that being said, I am still going to set my face with a mattifying powder, because in my original video I felt like I still got oily throughout the day. So because this is also a little too light for me, this powder tends to oxidize on me, so we'll see how the color combination works out. But I'm going to be setting my face with the Too Faced Peach Perfect Mattifying Loose Setting Powder. Powder into the cap, and I'm going to be applying it with my damp beauty sponge, which is how I apply all of my loose powders. And I am just going to press it onto my skin. So I feel like this side of my skin already looks darker. It's matching my body a little better. That was kind of instant. You guys can definitely see the difference right now. So this is powdered, not powdered. You can definitely see the difference in the color, but it matches my body well. So this is the good color match right now, as long as it doesn't oxidize anymore. So now that my face is all set, I don't think it actually looks too dry, and I am still able to see that texture on my cheeks, but it doesn't look as bad as it did before I set it for some reason. So I am getting a late start to the day. Again, it is 12 o'clock, but I will be giving you guys my final thoughts about halfway throughout the day, so around 6 p.m. And I am excited to see how this wears with my primers and with my mattifying powder. So I will see you guys in 6 hours. It is 7:30 p.m. and I am back to give my final thoughts. I've been wearing this makeup for 7.5 hours, so I left it on a little bit longer to see if there would be any changes in my skin. So as you guys can see, I am looking pretty shiny on my forehead, on the sides of my nose. The product has worn away on the tip of my nose and on my chin, which is where foundation tends to wear away the quickest, so I'm not that surprised. It is clinging to a dry patch I have over here. It's emphasizing my texture a bit, but this is pretty good. It's really held up much better than I expected, and it's held up much better than it did yesterday. So I really think that the primers I used helped make my skin look less textured than it did yesterday, and I think that the matte powder really helped to keep me more matte, and it really helped adjust the shade as well. Now the match is now a little bit too peachy for me, maybe a tinge dark. I don't know if the foundation oxidized and the powder oxidized, I'm not sure. So I would probably have to mix that powder with something else, but regardless, I do think that the products I used in combination with the foundation today made it look better on the skin and last longer. So I actually am really happy with the color of this. I do think it is a pretty good match for me. I do like the coverage because it does have a really good high medium coverage. I like the consistency of this because it is a little bit thinner. It's easier to blend out, to apply with a sponge, which is how I prefer to apply my foundation. And it did keep me matte for a pretty decent amount of time. So I do think that this is a pretty darn good foundation, especially for being a drugstore foundation. However, I don't think that this is amazing, and I don't see this becoming my new holy grail foundation. I think also part of the reason I'm not in love with it is because I have so many foundations right now that I know that I need to work through, and it wasn't necessary for me to buy this or have this in my collection right now. I do think it is a good product. It's something that I definitely want to spend more time with, something I want to revisit, but I am pretty impressed with the way that this foundation looks and the way that it performs, especially considering it is a drugstore foundation. So I do think that if you have more of a combo oily skin type, it might be something that you would enjoy checking out. I do think that if you are dry, it might just really cling to dry patches. So if you're still interested in trying it, I would definitely recommend going in with a really hydrating primer underneath. But if you guys have tried this, I would love to know your all's thoughts. Thank you so much for watching this video. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye guys.